Ladies and gentlemen, say these words before you sleep, and you will awaken in a world that bends to deliver your fortune. I am not speaking of chance or luck but of law, and the law never fails. In this teaching you will learn how to impress wealth upon the subconscious so deeply that the world must rearrange itself to deliver it. You will discover why most prayers for money fail, and how to speak in the only language the subconscious understands, the language of feeling. You will learn the difference between asking as a beggar and assuming as a son. You will see how to use the state akin to sleep as the doorway to fortune. And when we are finished, you will not merely know the words to say. You will know the state to inhabit, and from that state 50 million will come. Not as miracle from without, but as the natural harvest of your inner decree. I know what it is to fear bills, to believe money is earned by sweat, to imagine wealth bills only to the few. That was once my story too. But I discovered that lack is never caused by the outer world, and wealth is never given by men. It is your own assumption projected outward. The problem is not the economy, not your boss, not your circumstances. The problem is inner speech. The careless words you whisper to yourself each night before sleep. If those words are "I can't" or "I don't have," then you have sealed poverty upon your subconscious. But if those words are "I am worthy and what he supplied," then you have sealed abundance, and abundance must come. Most never learn this. You will. Here is what I will show you tonight. First, you will see why imagination is the only treasury and why all riches exist now within you. Then you will learn the secret command, the decree that speaks directly to the subconscious and forces it to bring wealth in ways you could never devise. I will take you into the state akin to sleep, where the command is most powerfully impressed. And I will show you how to build a simple imaginal scene that seals your wealth as fact. You will learn why most fail, because they say "I will be" instead of "I am," and how to guard your mental diet so that every inner word serves your fortune. And finally, I will show you how to remain faithful until the harvest so that what you plant in imagination grows into the 50 million already yours. Along the way, I will tell you the stories of men and women who dare to practice this. Those who imagined buildings and walked into ownership without a dollar. Those who spoke one decree and saw fortunes rise. Those who use revision to cancel debts and rewrite their past. Their stories are proof that this law is sure. And before we close, you will hold in your hands the very words to speak before sleep, and the certainty that when you say them, you have already begun journey into your fortune. Here's something almost everyone misses, and it keeps them poor no matter how hard they try. They believe wealth is earned by labor, by struggle, by clocking more hours than the man next to them. They think sweat is their savior, that if they can just push a little harder, stay a little later, grind a little longer, then finally life will reward them. But listen carefully. That is the great lie. For if money came by labor, the hardest workers in the world would be the wealthiest. Yet you and I both know that isn't true. The man who bends his back in the sun, the woman who works herself weary, they are not the ones walking into sudden fortune. Meanwhile, another man, seemingly effortless, lifts no more than a thought, and riches flow to him as though the world had conspired on his behalf. What is the difference? Not effort, not education, not luck. It is assumption. And this is why it matters so deeply. If you cling to the belief that wealth comes only by toil, you will spend your years chained to a treadmill, working harder and harder, only to find you've run in place. You'll look at your hands, rough and tired, and wonder why they're empty. You'll see others rise, while you remain where you began, and you'll call it unfair or chance or blessing for the few. But the truth is much simpler, much stranger, and far more liberating. Wealth is imagination pushed out. The outer world is only the shadow, the echo of the inner state. To toil without change in the inner state is to polish the mirror while refusing to change the face. So let me paint you a picture. One man gives his whole life to work to hours to sweat, but all the while he believes himself poor. He says, "I don't have enough. I must strive. I must struggle." And that assumption becomes his world. Another man, quiet and unnoticed, sits in silence and assumes, "I am wealthy. I am supplied." He does not chase. He does not beg. He does not strain. And yet the world bends to him. Opportunities appear. Doors open. Strangers become benefactors. Money flows without effort. And those who only know the creed of sweat shake their heads and say, "He is lucky." But luck has nothing to do with it. He simply knew the truth. Labor is not the cause. Consciousness is. Do you see the stakes here? If you believe the lie of hard work, you are trapped forever. But if you awaken to the truth, the burden falls away and you are free. For when you dare to assume wealth, without waiting for wages to confirm it, the subconscious accepts your decree and reshapes the world accordingly. This is why I tell you to toil and sweat, is to deny the Father within, for the Father is imagination, and imagination creates reality. Now let me take you deeper. Because what I am about to say may at first sound so simple that you will be tempted to overlook it. Yet it is the very foundation upon which every manifestation of wealth, of health, of love, of life itself is built. And if you do not grasp this, then all else will slip from your hands. Consciousness is the only cause. Everything you see, everything you touch, every dollar in your account, every opportunity or lack of opportunity, every success or every failure, all of it is nothing more than the effect of consciousness. And when I say consciousness, I mean your own wonderful human imagination, the awareness of being that silently declares, "I am." That alone is cause. The money you hold is not the cause of your wealth. It is only the shadow, the output effect of the state you occupy within. The poverty you fear is not caused by the economy, by governments, by circumstances, by bosses, or by banks. It is only caused by your concept of self. Change the concept and the shadow must change. Leave the mirror and change your face, and the reflection will alter at once. But to stand scowling before the mirror, to complain that the image is grim, is madness. For the mirror cannot change first, only the face can. Think about the tragedy of how most men live. They look outside and say, "I am poor because my wages are small, because opportunity is scarce, because others will not give me a chance." And in saying so, they place calls outside themselves. They make themselves victims of shadows, prisoners of reflections. And because they will not accept responsibility for cause, they never change. For no man can change the shadow by attacking the shadow. But the one who awakens sees the truth. If all is consciousness, then all is within his power, for his consciousness is his kingdom. And what he assumes within must harden into fact without. Let me give you the contrast. One man looks at his bank account and trembles. He says, I am broke. I am struggling. I am trapped. And the subconscious, hearing his decree, multiplies his poverty. Another man looks at the same numbers and refuses to bow. He says, this does not matter, for I am not defined by numbers on a screen. I am wealth itself. I am abundance. I am supplied in full. And though the evidence mocks him, though the senses deny him, the subconscious accepts his new conception of self and begins to move the world to conform. Soon opportunities arise, money flows, doors open, and he walks into wealth. Did the bank account cause his poverty? Did the sudden opportunities cause his riches? No. In both cases, it was only the shadow of self-concept, 'cause was always consciousness. Now, let me press this truth upon you with all the weight it deserves. You are already decreeing with every breath, every thought clothed in feeling, every inner conversation repeated in the silence of night, every word you join to the name I am. All of it is a seed planted in the soil of the subconscious, and all of it must bear fruit. There is no neutrality. If you say I am lacking, that is cause and lack must follow. If you say I am wealthy, that too is cause and wealth must follow. And the outer world, though it may take time to echo, cannot resist. The law is faithful and the law never fails. So I tell you, stop blaming shadows. Stop attacking effects. Stop begging the world to change while you remain the same. Turn within. Change the conception of yourself. Declare, I am wealthy. I am abundance. I am the source of every good thing. Persist until it feels natural, and the world will bow to that decree. Consciousness is the only cause, and once you accept this, you hold the key to every treasure. Now listen closely, for here we stand at the very heart of creation. At the hidden vault where fortunes are forged long before they ever appear in your hand. And that vault is none other than the subconscious mind, the treasury of wealth, the womb of all creation, the faithful servant that never sleeps, never questions, never judges, but only accepts and produces. Whatever you impress upon it, it will bring forth, whether for your blessing or for your sorrow. This is why I tell you, the subconscious is no respecter of persons. It does not care if you are wise or foolish, rich or poor, learned or unlearned. It does not ask whether what you impress is noble or base, possible or impossible. It only knows to receive and to express. If you impress fear, it brings forth fear. If you impress lack, it brings forth lack. If you impress abundance, it must clothe itself in riches and deliver them to you in ways you could not contrive. Think of how men misuse this treasury. Night after night they lie down rehearsing their debts, feeling the weight of bills yet unpaid, whispering in silence, I cannot manage. I do not have enough. I will never get out of this hole. And the subconscious, ever faithful, hears the confession, accepts it, and sets to work, producing more of the same. Arranging circumstances, moving people, creating situations that only deepen their poverty. They rise in the morning and curse their lot, never realizing they themselves have sealed it the night before by the careless words whispered into their treasury. Yet another, wiser, chooses differently. He lies down in the same bed in the same world, but he whispers a different command, I am wealthy. I am secure. I am free. And he feels the relief as though the bills were paid, as though the abundance were already his. The subconscious accepts that too, and it begins to reorganize the world to make his assumption fact. Do you see the wonder and the terror of this? The subconscious does not argue. It does not reason. It does not weigh evidence. It is not concerned with appearances. It only knows to obey the voice of feeling, the conviction that lies behind your words. If you say, "I will be rich," the subconscious hears only lack, for you have confessed you are not. But if you say, "I am rich," I am already supplied, and you clothe it in the feeling of relief and gratitude, the subconscious accepts that as fact and begins to build the bridge of incidents that must lead you to its fulfillment. So I tell you, do not treat the subconscious lightly. Guard the words you speak in silence, for they are decrees written upon the treasury of your being. Guard the feelings you entertain, for they are the ink with which you inscribe your destiny. Stop feeding it the food of fear and lack, for it will faithfully reproduce what you give it. Begin instead to nourish it with wealth, with security, with joy, with the feeling of plenty, and it will deliver to a life overflowing. The subconscious is your unfailing vault. What you place within it with conviction, it will bring forth in time. This is law, and the law never fails. Here is the mystery that overturns their entire world of common belief, and yet it is so simple that most stumble over it. Wealth is not something to be gained in the future, not something to be earned by long years of toil, not something hidden out there waiting for the right stroke of luck. All wealth exists now, already complete, already present, already alive in imagination. There is no tomorrow in imagination, no delay, no distance. Imagination is the eternal now, and within it all things are finished. All things are given. All things are possible. You are not striving to become wealthy. You are awakening to the fact that you already are. The only reason you do not see it in the outer world is because you have refused to accept it inwardly. You have clung to the old story of poverty, and the shadow has faithfully mirrored your refusal. Think of how men live. They say, "One day when I earn more, when I get the right job, when fortune smiles upon me, then I shall be rich." But that day never comes, for tomorrow never arrives. It is always now. And if now you say, "Will be," then now you are confessing, "I am not." And the subconscious, which hears only the present tense, reproduces your confession faithfully. So you live always in expectation, but never in possession. Always reaching, but never holding, because you have placed your treasure forever in the future. But the one who dares to believe, who dares to say, "I am wealthy now. I am supplied now. I am abundance now," though the senses deny it, though the evidence mocks, has entered into the true state, and the outer world must in time catch up to his assumption. Consider the story of the doctor and his wife, who longed for an apartment building of their own. By every outer measure it was impossible. They had no money, no means, no way. But night after night, they entered imagination and walked the halls of their building. They heard their friends say, "It is beautiful." They felt the joy of ownership, the pride of possession, in imagination, and they already lived world-moved. A contractor appeared. Financing arranged itself. Tenants came, and in time, the impossible was made fact. But it was fact already. The very night they dared to assume it in imagination. The outer only played catch-up. This is why I tell you, you are already what you want to be. The mansion, the bank account, the business, the freedom, all of it exists now in the unseen, waiting only for you to recognize it. Refuse to believe and you remain poor. Dare to believe and you prove the law. For imagination is not fantasy. Imagination is the only reality. What you accept there, you will one day walk through here. So stop saying when the time is right, when I am ready, when circumstances change. Circumstances are only shadows of the state you occupy. Change the state and the circumstances must follow. Wealth exists now. The treasury of heaven is within you. The only question is, will you believe it? Will you accept that you already are what you desire to be? For the moment you do, the unseen begins to harden into fact. And soon you will stand amid riches that others call miraculous, but which you will know were only the inevitable echo of your assumption. Now we come to the heart of the mystery, to the living key that unlocks every treasury, to the command hidden in plain sight spoken by prophets, written in scripture echoed in the hearts of all who have dared to believe. And it is this: you shall decree a thing and it shall come to pass. Not it may, not it might, not perhaps if the world agrees, but it shall. This is law. And the decree is not the begging cry of the beggar, nor the anxious repetition of the fearful, but the calm assertion of truth by one who knows that imagination is God, and God never fails. Every decree is an assumption clothed in words, and every assumption, once accepted, must harden into fact. Think of the tragedy of how most men use this law blindly. They rise in the morning knowing, I am tired, I am broke, I am unlucky, I am always struggling. They mutter it in casual complaint. They whisper it in silence. They speak it to their friends, and all the while they are decreeing their destiny. For the subconscious, which hears all and forgets nothing, accepts every I am as a command and begins to weave it into form. And so their lives remain small. Their fortunes remain thin. Not because fate has cursed them, not because others have held them back, but because they themselves have decreed poverty, and the law has obeyed. Now see the contrast. Another man who knows the law refuses to let idle words fall from his lips. He rises in the morning and declares, I am wealthy. I am free. I am supplied in full. And though the senses laugh at him, though his pockets seem empty, though the evidence contradicts, he persists in his decree. And the subconscious, hearing only the tone of faith, accepts it as fact. Soon circumstances rearrange, people appear, opportunities open, money flows, and the world calls him lucky. But he was not lucky. He was lawful. He simply spoke the command and stood by it until the shadow caught up with the light. Why does this matter? Because you are decreeing every moment of your life. There is no neutral speech. Every I am is a seed cast into the treasury of the subconscious. If you cast seeds of lack, you will reap lack. If you cast seeds of abundance, you will reap abundance. The law does not discriminate. It only fulfills. So the question is not whether you decree but what you decree, and whether you decree knowingly or blindly. So I tell you now, watch your words. Let every I am that passes your lips be worthy of God, for it is God Himself declaring. Say not, I am poor, I am stuck, I am waiting. For you will decree those conditions upon yourself. Say instead, I am wealthy, I am free, I am already in possession of 50 million, and stand in that decree with unwavering faith. Speak as though it were already done. For indeed in imagination it is done, and the outer world must bow. For the decree of God is creative, and the decree of God is your own inner speech. When Moses stood upon the mountain and asked, when they asked me, who has sent me? What shall I say? The Eternal answered with words so simple yet so infinite that they stand as the foundation of all being. I am that I am. Tell them I am has sent you. In that revelation lies the whole secret of creation. For the name of God is not a distant title, not a sound reserved for ritual, not a word written in stone, but the living awareness within you that declares I am. Every time you speak those words, you are calling upon the creative power of the universe. Every I am is a decree. Every I am is a seed. Every I am is God Himself creating through you. And what you join to those words will shape your world, whether you know it or not. See how men take the name in vain without even realizing it. They say, I am sick. I am tired. I am broke. I am unlucky. And in so doing, they have not merely complained. They have invoked the divine name and attached it to poverty, to weakness, to failure. And because God cannot deny Himself, because the subconscious must obey what is impressed upon it, their careless words become flesh. Their idle speech becomes fact, and their world echoes back the very things they curse themselves with. This is what it means to take the name of the Lord in vain. To join the holy words I am to state you do not wish to see, and then to blame fate or others for what you have decreed. Now let us see the glory of using the name rightly. When you say I am wealthy, I am secure, I am free, I am already in possession of 50 million. You are not lying. You are not pretending. You are not speaking a future hope. You are declaring the eternal truth of being, and the law is compelled to make it flesh. For the subconscious, which hears not words but feelings, accepts the decree as reality, and begins at once to rearrange the world to conform. You may not see it immediately, but it is already finished in imagination. And what is finished within must in time appear without. This is why Scripture repeats again and again the great declarations of identity. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. I am the door. I am the resurrection. These are not the words of one man about himself. They are the revelation of the divine name, the eternal formula, the reminder that whatever you join to, I am, you give life to. You can either resurrect poverty or resurrect wealth, depending on what you dare to declare. So take this as the greatest caution and the greatest gift. Never again speak I am lightly. Never again attach it to what you do not wish to manifest. From this moment, let your every I am be a royal decree spoken with the authority of God Himself. For that is exactly what it is. And when you lie down at night, let your final words before sleep be I am tired. I am worried. I am afraid. But I am wealthy. I am free. I am supplied beyond measure. Say it with feeling. And you will know the name has not been spoken in vain, but in truth, and the world will bow to the decree. Now I must show you a law that most overlook. A law hidden in plain sight yet so profound that once you grasp it, you will know beyond question that the command you speak before sleep must bear fruit. It is the law of reversibility. What does it mean? Simply this. If a certain cause produces a certain effect, then the effect felt and assumed will in turn reproduce the cause. The world believes only in forward motion that causes produce effects. But the awakened man knows that the current flows both ways. Just as heat can produce motion, so motion can produce heat. Just as electricity can produce light, so light can be harnessed to produce electricity. In the same way, if wealth received would make you feel secure, then feeling secure will produce wealth. If the possession of money would give you relief, then the feeling of relief will draw money. If success would make you feel confident, then confidence assumed will produce success. The bridge runs both ways. And this is the key. Consider how men usually think. They say, when I have more money, then I will feel safe, when I will feel relief. When the opportunity comes, then I will rejoice. But life does not work this way. For to wait is to deny, and to deny is to plant lack. They have placed the effect in the future, and therefore they have confessed they do not have it now. And the subconscious, hearing their confession, faithfully reproduces lack. So they live always in the shadow of tomorrow, never in the possession of today. But the wise man, knowing reversibility, says instead, I will feel it first. I will assume the end now. I will clothe myself in the joy, the relief, the security of already being wealthy. And because the subconscious cannot distinguish between cause and effect, it accepts the feeling as fact and produces the outer wealth to match. Let me give you an image. A man once told me he could not escape poverty. That money never seemed to come. He believed money would make him feel relief, but he did not know how to feel relief without it. I asked him to imagine instead that he had already received it. To lie down at night and feel the weight lifted, to hear the inner words, it is finished. It is done. I am free. To let himself smile as though every debt were paid. He did this night after night, and within weeks, money came through channels he never could have planned. What happened? He applied the law of reversibility. He felt the effect, and the cause appeared. Do you see now why this matters so deeply? You are not to wait until the shadow changes before you feel differently. For the shadow has no life of its own. You are to feel now the very thing you imagined the outer would bring. And by law the outer must conform. If wealth would make you confident, be confident now. If wealth would make you generous, be generous now. If wealth would make you grateful, be grateful now. Assume the effect, and you will create the cause. This is the law, and this is the secret of every miracle. So tonight before you sleep, do not wait for money to bring you peace. Enter into peace now. Do not wait for fortune to bring you joy. Rejoice now. Do not wait for 50 million to appear in your hand. Feel the ease and security of already having it. And by the law of reversibility, the subconscious must bring the outer world into line with your inner decree. Now that you see the law of reversibility, let me bring you face to face with the engine that makes it work. For there is within you a silent power that neither sleeps nor tires, that has never once failed to produce what it has been impressed with. And that power is your own subconscious mind. It is the treasury, the womb, the workshop of God. It does not argue with you. It does not reason with you. It does not weigh your words against the evidence of the senses. It simply hears, accepts, and obeys. The moment you impress it with a feeling clothed in words, it begins to reorganize the world to match. And here is the part that so few understand. It obeys instantly. From the very moment the impression is made, the seed is planted and the machinery of life is set in motion to bring forth its likeness. You may not see it yet in form, but beneath the surface, everything is already moving. People are stirred. Doors are opening. Events are rearranging themselves in ways beyond your comprehension, or to deliver to you what you have assumed. This is why I warn you to be watchful of every inner word. For the subconscious does not delay in its obedience. If you say, I am always struggling. I never get ahead. Money never comes to me. It accepts those as decrees and begins at once to shape your circumstances accordingly. You may not see the results in an hour, but the chain of causation has already begun. Likewise, if you dare to declare, I am wealthy. I am already supplied. I am living in abundance, and you feel it with conviction. Then the subconscious has already taken the seed and is even now arranging the bridge of incidents that must lead you to its fulfillment. The difference is not in the law, for the law is impersonal and unfailing. The difference is in the seed you plant, and the seed you plant is always your inner speech. Do you remember the little test I gave with the ladder? I asked men and women to say before sleep, I will climb a ladder, and then to imagine the feeling of climbing, the hands grasping the rung, the feet stepping upward. They swore they would resist. They promised they would not touch a ladder. And yet within days, without seeking it, without planning it, they found themselves climbing. Why? Because the subconscious had heard the decree, accepted it instantly, and orchestrated the circumstances to bring it to pass. If it obeys instantly with a ladder, why would it not obey with 50 million? It makes no distinction between small and great, easy and hard, possible and impossible. Those are judgments of the conscious mind. To the subconscious, all impressions are equal and all must be expressed. So I tell you, treat the subconscious with reverence. Do not throw careless words into it, for it will bring them forth with the same fidelity as your deliberate prayers. Do not speak of lack, for it will produce lack. Do not entertain doubt, for it will confirm your doubt. In fact, instead speak only that which you wish to see. Whisper into it the command of wealth, the decree of abundance, and let the feeling of possession seal it. Then rest knowing that even now the command is obeyed. Even now the world is shifting. Even now the harvest is sure. The subconscious obeys instantly. And once you know this, you will never again waste a word. For every word clothed in feeling is a prophecy, and every prophecy must be fulfilled. Now that you know the power of decree, the sacred name I am, the law of reversibility, and the instant obedience of the subconscious, let me bring it all together in practice, so you may use it tonight. For what good is knowing a law if you never apply it? The command that attracts wealth, the command that opens the treasury is not shouted into the air, not pleaded with the heavens, not cried out as a beggar, but whispered into the silence of your own being at the very edge of sleep. For it is in that sacred interval, when the body is heavy, when the senses grow dim, when the outer world is fading away, that the subconscious lies open and undefended, ready to receive the seed. This is the hour when you must plant, and the seed you plant is your decree clothed in feeling. So lie down tonight. Let every muscle grow still. Let your breath fall gentle. Let your mind halt in that twilight between waking and sleep. And in that quietness, speak the words not loudly, not desperately, but calmly as one who knows thee. I am already in possession of 50 million. I am supplied beyond measure. Do not speak as though asking. Do not speak as though hoping. Speak as though declaring what already is. Let the words sink deep. And as they fall, let your imagination clothe them in sensation. Feel the relief as though the burden of lack had been lifted. Feel the ease of walking into a store and buying freely without thought of cost. Feel the joy of seeing your account overflowing, of answering every bill with abundance, of living as one for whom money is no concern. See the smiles of friends congratulating you. Hear their voices say, "I knew you would do it. I knew wealth was yours." Let these feelings wash through you until they take on the tones of reality. Do not repeat endlessly like a machine, for vain repetition does not impress the subconscious. One word spoken in faith is worth more than 1,000 spoken in fear. The secret is absorption. You must enter into the state until you feel yourself there. When you can rest in the conviction that it is already done. When the words and the feeling have merged into certainty, then the command is sealed. At that moment, the subconscious has received it. And from that moment, the world begins to bend to obey. You may not see the outer sign tomorrow, but know that beneath the surface, people are already being moved. Doors are already opening, opportunities are already forming. All to fulfill the decree you gave in silence. And when doubt rises in the daylight, as it surely will, do not undo your work by contradicting it. Do not say, "It has not happened yet. Perhaps it did not work." Instead, remind yourself, the seed is planted. The command is given, the harvest is certain. Walk through your day with the quiet assurance of one who already possesses what he asked for. Speak only words that agree with your decree. Think only thoughts that nourish your assumption. Return each night to the silence and give the same command until it becomes so natural you no longer feel the need to affirm it, for it has become your state. This is how the command is practiced. Simple, direct, faithful. Enter stillness, declare, "I am wealthy." Feel it as fact. Rest in it and refuse to deny it. Do this, and you will prove the law for yourself. For wealth will rise, not as miracle from without, but as the inevitable harvest of the seed planted within. Now that you have seen how the command is given, let me show you the key that makes the command effective. For without this, even the most eloquent decree is but empty sound. That key is feeling. Feeling is the secret. Thought alone does not create. Words alone repeated endlessly do not create. You may say 1,000 times, "I am wealthy. I am rich. I am supplied." But if within yourself you still feel poor, if you still carry the heaviness of lack, if you still tremble at the sight of a bill, or shrink at the thought of money, then what the subconscious receives is not the word but the feeling. For the subconscious, that great womb of creation, is moved not by argument, not by logic, not by repetition, but by sensation. It hears not the surface chatter of the lips, but the deep tone of the heart. It accepts as fact only what you feel to be true. This is why so many fail. They declare wealth with their mouths, while their hearts still whisper poverty. They speak abundance while secretly rehearsing worry. They pray for prosperity while feeling the sting of debt. And then they say, "The law does not work for me." But the law always works. It is not the word alone that is planted. It is the feeling beneath the word. If the feeling is lack, then lack is impressed. If the feeling is abundance, then abundance is impressed. The outer world is only the mirror of your inner sensation. Think of how feeling has guided of your life. When you were in love, the whole world seemed different. The air was lighter. Colors were brighter. Every face seemed kinder, though nothing outside had changed. What changed was the tone of your being, the inner atmosphere you carried, and the world reflected it faithfully. So it is with wealth. To feel wealthy is to tune yourself to the frequency of abundance. and the world, like a radio, must play back the station to which you are tuned. So what must you do? You must learn to govern feeling, to choose deliberately the mood you occupy, to refuse the heaviness of poverty, and to clothe yourself instead in the ease of plenty. Do not ask, how will it come? That is not your concern. Do not measure yourself by outer evidence, for evidence always lags behind. Instead, enter the state of the wish fulfilled and feel it as though it were already true. Does wealth feels like relief? It feels like freedom. It feels like ease. It feels like safety. It feels like joy. When you assume these feelings and let them saturate your being, the subconscious receives them as fact, and the world must mirror them. So I tell you, stop trying to think your way into riches. Begin to feel your way there. Thought may set the direction, but feeling is the power that carries you across the threshold. Speak the words, yes, but let them be clothed in the garment of feeling. Whisper, I am wealthy, and then feel the warmth of it in your chest, the smile rising on your lips, the relief washing over your body. When feeling and word are one, the subconscious is impressed and the decree is sealed. This is the secret, and once you grasp it, you will never again wonder why your word seemed powerless. For you will know it was not the word that failed, but the feeling that was lacking. Here is the great snare that keeps men poor, even while they pray, even while they are firm, even while they labor with sincerity. It is the poison hidden in the words, I will be. For the moment you say, I will be rich, I will be free, I will be successful, you have unconsciously declared, I am not. And the subconscious, which never deals in tomorrow, but only in the eternal present, hears not your promise, but your confession. It does not hear I will be, it hears I am not now. And because it accepts whatever is felt as true, it brings forth only more lack. And so the man who prays one day, I will have enough, dies waiting. For his prayer was never more than a rehearsal of poverty. The woman who says, soon I will escape these debts, finds herself bound to them still. For her decree was, I am still in debt. The future never arrives, for is always now, and now is always the only door through which creation enters. Do you see the tragedy? The world is full of men who lip of tomorrow who save. When the promotion comes, then I will rejoice. When the inheritance arrives, then I will rest. When fortune smiles, then I will live. But tomorrow is a mirage, always receding, always just out of reach. For they have made their wealth conditional upon a future that never comes. They think themselves wise, planning for better days. But in truth they have chained themselves to lack by declaring its presence today. For I will be is nothing, but I am not dressed in the rags of hope. And the subconscious faithful servant that it is takes them at their word and multiplies the poverty they confess. But here is the glory. The moment you drop the words I will be and dare, instead to say I am, everything shifts. The moment you clothe yourself in the feeling of already being, already having, already possessing, the subconscious accepts it as fact, and the bridge of incidents begins to rise to carry you to its fulfillment. You need not know how, you need not know when. You need only know that by assuming the end, now you have planted the seed, and the harvest is certain. I am is the language of God. I will be is the language of the beggar. Choose which tongue you will speak. For one creates, the other delays. So I tell you, catch yourself in the very act. When you hear the words, I will be, rise up and correct them at once. Replace them with I am. If you find yourself saying, one day I will be wealthy, stop and say instead I am wealthy now. If you find yourself thinking, soon I will escape lack, replace it with, I am free now. At first it may feel strange, even false, but persist. For the subconscious does not care what is true or false. It only knows what is felt. And as you persist in I am, the feeling will grow natural. And what is natural must in time appear. In fact, never again say I will be. For as long as you do, you confess you are not. And as long as you confess you are not, you will never be. Say instead, I am. For that is the name of God. And that is the only language the subconscious obeys. Now, let me draw your attention to something most men never stop to notice. And because they never notice it, they never master it. It is the fact that every state of consciousness carries with it a distinct feeling tone, an emotional fragrance, an inner vibration that cannot be mistaken. Just as every piece of music has its melody, just as every color has its hue, just as every season has its atmosphere, so too does every state of wealth or poverty its own unmistakable emotional signature. Poverty feels heavy. It feels like a knot in the stomach, a tightening in the chest, a restless unease about tomorrow, a low hum of anxiety that something is always missing, always out of reach. You know the feeling well, for you have worn it as a garment and walked in its shadow. Wealth, on the other hand, feels entirely different. It is not simply the possession of things. It is the ease that comes with knowing there is always more than enough. It is the relief that every bill is already covered. It is the lightness of walking freely, unhurried, unafraid. It is the calm assurance that whatever you desire is already within reach, that you live in a world where supply is natural and endless. This matters more than anything you could learn about money in the outer world. For until you recognize and inhabit the feeling tone of wealth, you will continue to live in the feeling tone of lack, and the subconscious, which is only what you feel, will reproduce lack faithfully. You may shout with your lips, I am rich. But if the signature of poverty still lingers in your body, if your shoulders still carry the tension of fear, if your heart still pounds with anxiety when the subject of money arises, then the subconscious accepts that vibration as your truth, and it will echo it back in circumstances that confirm it. But if you quiet yourself and dare to step into the signature of abundance, if you let your body breathe the relief of already having, if you let your imagination taste the joy of spending freely, if you let your heart rest in the ease of possession, then the subconscious will receive that fragrance, that melody, that inner tone, and it must produce its likeness in your outer life. It is exactly like tuning a radio. The station of poverty plays endlessly in the world, and the station of wealth plays alongside it. You cannot receive one while tuned to the other. No matter how much you long for the music of abundance, if your dial is set to the frequency of lack, you will hear nothing but its discord and tune. But turn the dial inwardly. Adjust the feeling tone and the broadcast changes. You do not create the music. It was always there, but by tuning yourself to it, you receive it. So it is with money. The melody of wealth is eternal, playing now in imagination, and all you must do is tune your feeling to it. So I ask you, what does wealth feel like to you? Not what it looks like, not what it buys, but what it feels like in your chest, in your breath, in your very being. Find that signature, discover its fragrance, and then put it on as a garment each night before sleep, each day when you rise. Walk in it until it becomes natural, until you no longer strain to hold it, until it clings to you as your very nature. For when the feeling of wealth becomes your home, the world cannot help but echo it back. The emotional signature you carry within is the prophecy of your future, and the prophecy cannot fail. Now let me speak of the enemy that lurks within every heart. The subtle thief that robs men of their fortune before it ever arrives. The hidden saboteur of every prayer, and that enemy is doubt. Doubt is not weakness. It is faith inverted, faith in failure, faith in poverty, faith in the evidence of the senses that cry out. It is not so. Doubt is simply loyalty to appearances, and as long as you serve it, as long as you rehearse it in your inner speech, it will bear its fruit as faithfully as faith itself. For the law is no respecter of persons. It brings forth whatever seed is planted, whether good or evil, blessing or curse. Most men live their lives in doubt, saying, one moment, I am wealthy, and the next, but how will it come? What if it fails? What if nothing changes? And the subconscious, hearing the stronger voice, accepts the doubt truth and fulfills it. They wonder why nothing moves, why their decrees remain barren, never realizing it was not the law that failed, but their loyalty to the wrong master. So you must learn the great art of transforming doubt into certainty. And the art is simple, though it demands persistence. Replace the inner conversation of fear with the inner conversation of fulfillment until the new becomes natural. At first, the mind will rebel. It will point to the bank account, to the bills, to the circumstances, and say, look, these are the facts. But appearances are shadows, and shadows are powerless to change themselves. Reality lies only in imagination, and imagination creates the facts the senses will later confirm. So when doubt whispers, answer boldly, I have already decreed it, therefore it is done. When fear cries, but nothing has changed, answer calmly, everything has changed within, and the outer must follow. When anxiety rises, what if it does not work? Answer with authority. And already has worked, for the seed is planted, and the harvest is sure. Speak to doubt as you would speak to an unruly servant, for that is all it is, and silence it with a word of faith. Picture a man who plants a seed in the earth. He does not return each day to dig it up and see if it grows. He waters it. He trusts the soil. He waits, knowing that in the silence of the earth, the life is unfolding. But the doubter plants his seed and digs it up each morning, disturbing the roots, destroying the process, and then wonders why there is no harvest. So it is with your assumptions. Once planted in the subconscious, they must be left to grow in faith. To question, to worry, to doubt is to dig them up again. To rest in certainty is to water them with confidence. And soon the stalk will break the soil, and the fruit will appear. And let me tell you this, certainty does not always come as a thunderclap. It may come first as a whisper, a subtle shift in mood, a small sense of relief. Do not despise it, cultivate it. Let that small feeling of security be the seed of greater confidence. Each time you return to it, each time you dwell in it, the certainty grows stronger. Until one day, it is so naturalless that you no longer even question whether the wealth will come. You know it is already yours. At that moment, the world must bow. For when the inner state is fixed, the outer cannot resist. So I charge you, abandon doubt, starve it of your attention, refuse its whispers. Feed only certainty, rehearse only fulfillment. Persist only in the joy of already having, for the law is faithful. And when certainty becomes your dwelling place, the riches you once longed for will rush into your life, as though they had been waiting at the door all along. Doubt is the only delay and certainty is the only key. Choose certainty and the harvest is inevitable. Now let me draw your attention to the most sacred moment of every day. A moment so common that most treat it carelessly, never realizing it is the very doorway to creation. It is the moment when you sink into sleep. For in that hour the conscious mind with all its reasoning, all its doubts, all its noisy objections, grows silent, and the subconscious, that faithful servant and silent womb, lies open and undefended, ready to receive whatever impression you bring to it. This is why Scripture declares, in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instruction. Do you see? It is not in the bustle of the day, not in the rush of action, not in the struggle of argument that your decree is sealed, but in the stillness of night, when the outer world fades and the inner world alone remains. Most men squander this holy hour. They fall asleep rehearsing the failures of the day, worrying about tomorrow, repeating conversations of fear, feeling the weight of their lack. And the subconscious, hearing those feelings as facts, accepts them and reproduces them faithfully, arranging circumstances so that tomorrow mirrors the very poverty they carried into sleep. They rise the next morning and curse their fate, never knowing they themselves sealed it the night before with careless inner speech. For the one who is wise, the one who knows the law, uses this sacred interval as his workshop of creation. He lies down and deliberately chooses the state he wishes to plant. He enters the mood of wealth, the ease of abundance, the joy of possession, and he lets that be his final impression before slipping into the great silence. The subconscious receiving it as reality begins at once to move the world to echo it back. Why does this matter? Because in the waking hours, the conscious mind is too quick to interfere. You may affirm wealth in the day, but doubts rise, distractions come, appearances mock, and the seed bounces off the surface. But in the drowsy state on the border of sleep, the conscious God grows weak, the critical voice fades, and the impression passes straight into the depths. This is why I call it the state akin to sleep. It is not full waking nor full slumber, but that twilight where imagination is most vivid and the subconscious most open. In that place, a single decree, a single imaginal act carries more weight than hours of struggle in the day. So I tell you, guard this moment with all diligence. Do not drift away into sleep with fear in your heart or complaint on your lips. Use it as the golden door it is. Enter it with wealth as your companion, with abundance as your atmosphere, with gratitude as your song. For what you carry into sleep, you will carry into life. The subconscious will seal it as your instruction, and the outer world will unfold to match it. Sleep is not mere rest. It is creation. And if you would be wealthy, you must use it as the treasury of heaven. Now that you know how to enter the state, let me show you what to carry into it. For the subconscious does not respond to vague hopes or scattered images, but to clear, simple acts charged with conviction. You must construct for yourself a wealth scene, not a complicated story with many moving pieces, not a long drama that exhausts the mind, but one simple imaginable act that, if true, would convince you beyond all question that your desire is already fulfilled. Keep it brief. Keep it vivid. Keep it charged with feeling. It might be as simple as the weight of money in your hands, the texture of crisp notes, the sound of paper rustling as you count it. It might be the sight of a bank statement, overflowing with figures far beyond anything you have known. It might be the voice of a friend saying, "I knew you'd do it. Congratulations on your success." It might be the simple gesture of writing a check with ease, paying bills without concern, or walking into a store and buying freely. Unafraid of the cost, the form does not matter. What matters is that the act implies the end is already realized, and that you can feel it as though it were happening now. Once you have chosen the scene, take it with you into the twilight. Enter the state akin to sleep. Let the body sink into rest. Let the senses fade, and then enact the scene inwardly. Do not watch it as a spectator, for that is to remain separate. Enter it as participant. If you imagine counting money, feel it in your hands. Smell the faint ink of new bills. Hear the rustle as you stack them. If you imagine a friend's voice, hear the tone, the laughter, the warmth. If you imagine signing a check or transferring a vast sum, feel the pen in your hand. See the numbers with clarity. Feel the satisfaction of freedom. Make it as sensory as you can. For the subconscious is moved not by words, but by impressions. And here is the secret. Repeat the scene until it's on the tones of reality. At first it may feel like play, like make-believe, but persist and soon it will feel natural, inevitable. You may find yourself smiling, your body responding as though the scene were truly happening. You may even fall asleep in the act. And that is the greatest victory. For when the imaginal scene carries you into sleep, it passes unresisted into the subconscious, and there it is sealed. From that moment the work is done, and the world must conform. Consider again the couple who imagined their building. They did not draw blueprints. They did not labor in calculations. They simply chose one scene. Walking through the halls of their building and hearing a friend say, "Doctor, I think it is beautiful." That one act repeated faithfully was enough. The subconscious received it, and the bridge of incidents unfolded until the building stood in stone and mortar, their dream made flesh. The simplicity of their scene was the secret of its power. So do not complicate your wealth scene. Choose one act that convinces you, one act that implies the end, and repeat it night after night until it feels real. When it does, rest, for the seed has been planted. The subconscious has accepted it, and the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. Wealth will come not as a miracle from without, but as the inevitable harvest of the imaginal act faithfully lived within. Now, after you have entered the silence, after you have constructed your simple wealth scene and carried it into sleep until it took on the tones of reality, there remains a final and most necessary act. You must seal the command. For what is the use of planting a seed if you will dig it up each morning to see whether it has sprouted? What is the use of impressing the subconscious with wealth if you will rise tomorrow and speak poverty into existence again? The subconscious is faithful, but it is also literal, and it will bring forth not what you hope for in the night only, but what you persist in throughout the day. The decree given in silence and be protected in waking, guarded as a treasure, sealed as a covenant. How do you seal it? By refusing to contradict it. You may still see the same bills, the same account balances, the same circumstances that mocked you yesterday, but now you know better. You know, these are but shadows of past states, echoes of old assumptions that are already dying. Do not bow before them. Do not look at them as if they had power. Instead, remind yourself, I have already planted the seed. I have already impressed the subconscious. The command has already been given, and the harvest is certain. Walk through your day with the quiet assurance that you have spoken the decree, and that the world is already in motion to obey. Let every thought and every word be in agreement with your imaginal act. If you find yourself tempted to complain, stop at once. If you hear yourself saying, I cannot afford, replace it immediately with, I am wealthy, I am supplied, I am free. This is how you seal the command by remaining loyal to it until it becomes second nature. Think of the farmer. He does not plant his seed and then rush into the field each morning to tear it up. He trusts the soil. He waters it. He protects it, and he waits knowing that though he sees nothing today, beneath the surface the work is being done. So it is with you. The imaginal act is your seed. The subconscious is your soil and faith is your water. The moment you give the command, the growth begins. You may not see the stalk break the earth yet, but it is already alive, already unfolding, already inevitable. To doubt is to uproot, to question is to disturb the process. To fear is to poison the soil. But to rest in faith is to seal the command, to protect it until the day of harvest. And remember this, every manifestation has its appointed hour. Some seeds spring up quickly, others take longer seasons, but all bear after their kind. Do not measure time. Do not demand signs. Do not fret over delays. The outer world is not the cause. It is only the shadow, and shadows often lag behind the light. If you have impressed the subconscious with wealth, then wealth is already yours, and the evidence will come in its perfect season. Your task is not to make it happen, but to remain faithful until it happens. Seal the command by walking as though it were already done, by speaking only in harmony with your decree, by refusing to deny what you have already claimed. And soon enough, the harvest will appear, and you will know that it was your faith, your persistence, your loyalty to the unseen that sealed the command and brought it forth. In fact, now we arrive at a turning point. For it is here that the majority fail, not because the law is weak, not because God withholds, not because the subconscious is unwilling, but because they approach the throne of creation as beggars instead of sons. Most of the world spends its life asking, pleading, imploring some distant power to give them what they believe they lack. They kneel in prayer and cry, Please God, make me wealthy. Please God, give me abundance. Please God, supply my needs. And though they pray with passion, with sincerity, with tears in their eyes, their prayer is vain. For in the very act of asking, they have confessed their poverty. To ask is to say, I do not yet have. I am not yet supplied. I am not yet wealthy. And the subconscious, hearing only what is felt, accepts the confession as truth and reproduces lack. Prayer of this kind is nothing more than the rehearsal of the very condition you wish to escape. But the one who awakens to the law ceases to ask and begins to assume. He no longer approaches God as though God were outside withholding blessings. He recognizes that God is his own wonderful human imagination, and that what he assumes within is what God creates without. So he no longer begs, "Give me wealth." Instead, he declares, "I am wealthy." He no longer please, please supply me. Instead, he assumes I am already supplied. He no longer hopes one day I will be free. Instead, he rests in I am free now. For he knows that imagination is the only reality, and to assume is to create. Do you see the power of this shift? Asking leaves you in lack, but assuming places you in possession. Asking looks to tomorrow, but assuming claims today. Asking denies the Father within, but assuming honors him. For assumption is faith, and faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. When you assume, you have already accepted the gift. And the subconscious, which takes all feeling as fact, begins to build the bridge of incidents that must bring it to pass. Consider the words of Scripture. To him that hath shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away. Even that which he's mean. It means exactly this. The one who assumes possession, he that hath receives more. While the one who confesses lack, he that hath not loses even what he clings to. Asking keeps you in the state of not having, and so lack multiplies. Assuming places you in the state of having, and so abundance multiplies. So I say to you, stop asking. Cease begging the heavens. Refuse to confess lack in the disguise of prayer. Instead, take up the boldness of faith and assume the end tonight. Before you sleep, do not cry out. Instead, whisper, I am already rich. I am already in possession of 50 million. I am already supply. Feel it as real. Rest in it. Walk tomorrow as though it were finished. For indeed it is finished in imagination, and imagination creates reality. Here we touch one of the most delicate yet most powerful distinctions in all the mysteries of creation. And if you can grasp it, you will hold in your hands the difference between endless longing and actual possession, between hoping forever and receiving at last. It is the difference between think from the end and thinking from the end. To think of wealth is to place it outside yourself, to see it as distant, to treat it as a goal on the horizon. You can describe it. You can dream about it. You can tell others how wonderful it would be if only it were yours. Yet all the while you remain apart from it. It is like a man standing before a feast, gazing through the glass at the rich food laid out inside, speaking of the colors, the aromas, the flavors, but never once sitting at the table. He knows of it, but he does not know it. He remains hungry. But to think from the end is to take your seat at the table and eat. It is to occupy the state as though it were already yours, to wear the garment of wealth, to breathe its air, to feel its ease, to walk in its joy, not as a hope, but as a fact. Thinking from is living in the finished act. It is acting, speaking, feeling as one who has already arrived. And when you dwell there faithfully, the world must conform, for the outer always echoes the inner. The shadow must follow the substance, and the substance is the state you occupy. Now this is why so many fail though they practice diligently. They say, I am imagining wealth. I am thinking about riches. But they are still thinking of the end. They treat it as an object separate from themselves, as something to be reached. And so the subconscious hears, I do not yet have, and reproduces that state. But the one who knows the law says instead, I am already there. I am already wealthy. I am already in possession of 50 million. He does not think of wealth. He thinks from it. He walks through life clothed in the end. He answers the phone, opens his mail, meets with others as though he were already the man he longs to be. And the world, obedient to the assumption, reshapes itself until what was once imagination becomes fact. Consider the child at play. He does not think of being a king. He thinks from it. He sits on a chair and declares it a throne. He wears a paper crown and rules his kingdom with all the gravity of majesty. To him, it is not make-believe. It is reality. And though the world laughs, the child is nearer to the secret of creation than all the philosophers. For he knows instinctively how to live from the end. And what he plays today, he grows into tomorrow. So I ask you, where do you live in consciousness? Do you stand forever at the window thinking of wealth, admiring it from afar, but never claiming it? Or do you step inside, sit at the table, and think from wealth, living in it now until it feels natural? For this is the difference between desiring and receiving, between hope deferred and desire fulfilled. Stop thinking of the end. Begin tonight to think from it. Enter the state of already having, already being, already possessing, and the outer world will follow and not fail. For the law cannot fail. Now let me reveal something that confuses almost everyone who first begins to practice this law. And because they do not understand it, they stumble. They lose faith. They abandon their assumption too soon. It is what I call the bridge of incidents. For when you assume the end, when you clothe yourself in wealth, when you declare with conviction, I am already supplied. I am already in possession of 50 million. The world must begin to rearrange itself, to bring that assumption to pass. But it cannot do so without movement, without change, without the reshaping of circumstances. And so life begins to build a bridge of events, each one necessary, each one perfectly placed that carries you from where you are to the state you have assumed. The bridge may be strange. It may be unexpected. It may even at times seem disruptive or uncomfortable. But it is always lawful, always perfect, always the straightest path to your desire. Here is where many falter. They declare wealth. They enter the state. They seal the command. And then when life begins to shift, when something collapses, when a door closes, when an old structure falls away, they panic. They say, "Why is this happening? I asked for wealth, but I have lost my job. I assumed abundance. But now my business seems uncertain." They do not realize that the old must often dissolve to make way for the new. That the path they once walked cannot carry them to the end they have chosen. And so life must lay down a new bridge. And because they mistake the construction of the bridge for failure, they abandon their assumption. They undo their decree. They return to lack and the bridge remains unfinished. But the one who knows the law does not waver. He understands that once the end is assumed, the bridge will arise and his only task is to walk across it faithfully. He does not try to design it. He does not dictate how it must appear. He does not interfere with its unfolding. He simply remains loyal to the end, trusting that the subconscious, once impressed, is the master architect of his destiny. And so he watches with wonder as events fall into place, as chance meetings occur, as doors open, as opportunities arise, as seeming obstacles turn out to be stepping stones. Each incident taken in isolation might look insignificant or even troubling, but when seen together, they form a perfect chain leading inexorably to the end he decreed. Consider again the doctor and his wife, who imagined their apartment building. Outwardly they had no money, no means, no path. But having assumed the end, the bridge began to appear. A contractor came unasked. Financing arranged itself without effort. Tenants appeared even before the building was complete. Each step was part of the bridge. Had they judged by appearances, they might have despaired, but by persisting in the end, they crossed the bridge without strain, and the dream became fact. So it is with you. Once you have declared, "I am wealthy," the bridge is already being built. Do not look for it. Do not demand to see its shape. Do not panic when the old falls away. Simply remain loyal to the end, and you will find yourself walking naturally, effortlessly, step by step into the very wealth you assume. So I tell you, trust the bridge. Walk it with confidence. Do not resist. Do not complain. Do not question how. Your decree has already set the process in motion, and nothing can stop it but your own disbelief. Persist in the end, and the bridge will carry you. Resist the bridge and you will remain where you began. Life knows the shortest route to your desire, and it is wiser than you. Trust it, and it will not fail. Now, after the decree has been spoken, after the seed has been planted, after the bridge of incidents has begun to rise, there remains the greatest discipline of all to dwell in the state of fulfillment. For assumption is not a passing thought, not a fleeting glimpse, not a brief visit to a land of wishful dreaming. It is a dwelling place, a home, a permanent residence in consciousness. Most men fail because they treat the state of wealth as a visitor might treat a palace. They walk its halls for a moment in imagination, admire its beauty, and then depart, returning to the familiar dwelling of poverty, and then they wonder why nothing changes. But the one who is wise moves in. He makes his bed there. He eats at its table. He lives and breathes as though it were his only home. He refuses to vacate, no matter how loudly appearances knock at his door, for he knows that what is natural in imagination must soon become natural in fact. Do you see the difference? To visit the state is to taste it briefly, but to dwell in it is to become it. The visitor remains a stranger. The resident takes ownership. The visitor admires from a distance. The resident lives in possession. And the world always reflects possession, never admiration. If you wish to be wealthy, you must not merely think about wealth. You must think from wealth. You must act, speak, and feel as one who already owns the fullness of it. When bills arrive, you do not tremble, for you live in the state of one who has more than enough. When opportunities appear, you greet them as natural, for you live in the state of one for whom doors always open. When doubts whisper, you silence them, for you live in the state of one whose wealth is already secure. The world may not yet echo your decree, but you refuse to leave the state. And because you remain, the world must eventually catch up. Think of the couple who imagined their building. For years they spoke of it, visited it in thought, but nothing changed. Only when they moved in, only when they nightly walked its halls in imagination, heard their friends say, "It is beautiful," felt the pride of ownership. Only then did the bridge of incidents unfold, and the building rise. They ceased visiting. They began dwelling, and dwelling brought forth the fact. So it is with you. If you remain a visitor in wealth, you will admire it forever without tasting it. But if you dwell in it faithfully, the world will soon bring you the keys. So I charge you, Stop treating your assumption as a guest. Make it your home. Dwell in it day and night. Let it become more natural to speak of abundance than of lack. More natural to expect increase, fear loss. More natural to thank than to beg. When the state of fulfillment becomes the atmosphere you breathe, wealth cannot help but appear. For the shadow must follow the substance, and the substance is the state in which you dwell. Now, I must tell you something that may shake you. And yet, once you grasp it, you will see why your world has always been exactly what it is, and why it must change. The moment you change within it is this. Everyone you meet, every conversation you have, every act of kindness or cruelty, every door that opens or shuts, every opportunity that rises or falls, all of it is you pushed out. The faces you encounter are only masks worn by your own assumptions. The words others speak are only echoes of your inner speech. The actions of men and women in your world are nothing but the outpicturing of the states you have entertained in the silence of imagination. You may believe they are independent, that they act of their own accord, but the law reveals otherwise. The whole vast world is yourself objectified. There is no one to change but self. Consider what this means. If you believe yourself small, unworthy, insignificant, then you will walk into a world where others treat you with disregard, where opportunities pass you by, where doors are closed in your face. But if you assume yourself wealthy, noble, and worthy of every good thing, then the world cannot help but mirror it. Others will call you successful. Opportunities will chase you down. Doors will open at the slightest touch, not because they changed in themselves, but because you changed the conception of yourself that they reflect. Everyone is you pushed out. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you will understand why you must guard your mental diet with the utmost vigilance. Think of it. Every inner conversation is a seed. If you rehearse arguments with others, you will meet them in conflict. If you imagine others denying you, you will walk into their rejection. If you inwardly curse the rich, you will find wealth fleeing from you. But if you bless others inwardly, if you see them successful, generous, abundant, you are only prophesying your own fortune. For what you do unto another in imagination, you are only doing unto yourself. This is why Scripture says, as you measure, it shall be measured to you. Again, the measure is always the state you assume of yourself and of others, and life only returns to you the exact portion of what you gave. So I tell you, stop blaming others for your condition. Stop resenting. Stop envying. Stop accusing. Others are only your mirrors. If you dislike the reflection, do not strike the glass. Change the face you present to it. Assume yourself to be wealthy. Assume yourself to be supplied. Assume yourself to be honored. And watch as others begin to treat you as you have assumed. Everyone is you pushed out. And when you understand this, you will cease all warfare with the world. For the world is only your own being objectified. Now that you see the world as yourself pushed out, you must understand why it is vital to God, the food you give to your mind. For just as the body becomes what it consumes, strong or weak, nourished or diseased, so too does your outer life become the exact likeness of the thoughts, moves, and inner words you feed upon. This is what I call the mental diet. And most men are starving themselves of wealth, while feeding themselves on poverty, every hour of the day. They rise in the morning, and their first thought is, I cannot afford this. And with those words, they swallow poison. They go about their day rehearsing conversations about debt, about bills, about lack. And every repetition is another morsel of scarcity ingested. They speak casually of how hard life is, how difficult money is to come by, how unfair the world is. And with each careless utterance, they are feeding the subconscious exactly what it will bring forth. And then when lack multiplies, when opportunities close, when money flees, they wonder why the law does not seem to work for them. For the law has never failed. It has only returned to them the exact harvest of the food they provided. Think of this. You would never expect health in the body if you filled it daily with toxins. You would not be surprised if constant indulgence in poison brought weakness and disease. And yet men fill their minds each day with a poison of fear, of doubt, of complaint, of lack, and then wonder why their lives bear no fruit of abundance. But the one who is wise understands that the subconscious is always eating, always digesting, always taking in the inner conversations and moods you permit. And because it accepts only what is felt as true, it takes these meals of lack and produces them as fact in the outer world. So if you desire wealth, you must change the diet. You must feed your mind daily with thoughts of abundance, with feelings of plenty, with the inner speech of ease and freedom. You must refuse the morsels of doubt. Refuse the plate of fear. Refuse the banquet of complaint that the world offers you. And instead, nourish yourself only on the words of wealth. And here is the secret. It is not enough to guard your outer speech. For you may speak politely in public while secretly rehearsing poverty in silence. It is the inner diet that matters most. The words you whisper to yourself when no one else hears. The tone of your self-talk in the solitude of night. For that is the food the subconscious digests most deeply. So catch yourself in the very act. When you hear within, I cannot manage. I never get ahead. I always fall behind. Stop at once and replace it with, I am wealthy. I am free. I am supplied in full. Do not allow a single negative morsel to pass unchallenged. For one careless seed can bear bitter fruit. Replace every denial with a decree, every fear with faith, every complaint with gratitude. Persist in this new diet, and soon it will become natural. The old taste for lack will fade, and the new taste for abundance will take its place. The subconscious will grow accustomed to being fed on wealth, and it will begin to produce wealth as naturally as the body produces strength when given good food. And when others marvel at your fortune, you will know it was no miracle from without, but the inevitable harvest of the mental diet you faithfully kept within. Now let me reveal to you a power that once you grasp it will shatter the chains of your past and free you from every memory that seems to bind you. For men live as prisoners of yesterday, dragging behind them the weight of failure, the scars of loss, the echoes of rejection, never realizing that the past itself is not finished, not sealed, not beyond redemption. For the past lives still in imagination, and imagination is the only reality. Every memory is only a present act of imagining. And if you dare to change it now, you change not only the memory, but the harvest it continues to bear. This is the power of revision. By going back in imagination and rewriting the scenes of your life as they ought to have been, you plant new seeds in the subconscious. And because causes and effects are bound together, new effects must arise in the present and in the future. Think of how most men live. They replay their failures in memory again and again. They remember the rejection letter, the unpaid bill, the lost opportunity, the unkind word. And every time they relive it with feeling, they impress it anew upon the subconscious. And the old story lives on, bringing forth the same bitter fruit in the present. They say it is too late. What is done, not knowing that what is done in imagination is always alive, and that by rehearsing the old story, they are replanting the old seed. And so they wonder why misfortune repeats itself, why the same patterns return, why they cannot escape the cycle. But the wise man, the awakened man, knows that he need not accept the old story at all. He can go back in imagination, replay the scene, and alter it until it feels real. He can hear a different word, see a different outcome, feel a different emotion. And by impressing this revised scene upon the subconscious, he plants a new cause, and a new harvest must come. A man receives a letter of denial. He feels the sting, the disappointment, the anger. But that night before he sleeps, he takes the letter into imagination. He sees it again, but now he changes it. He hears the words, "Congratulations, you have been approved." He feels the joy, the relief, the excitement. He rehearses it until it feels natural. And soon enough, though the world insists the letter was once a denial, a new opportunity arises. An approval arrives. The outer world bends to match the revised memory. Or think of a man in debt. Each bill screams, "You owe." You cannot pay, and he feels the weight of it. But in imagination he revises. He sees the bill stamped paid in full. He hears the words, "Your account is cleared." He feels the joy of freedom. And because the subconscious has accepted the new story, the world conspires to fulfill it. Settlements are arranged. Money appears, debts are raised. Do you see the wonder of this? The past is not dead. It is only imagination. And imagination can always be changed. By revising the old story, you cancel its harvest. By planting the new, you ensure a new crop. Never again say, "I cannot escape my past." For your past is nothing but present memory, and memory can be rewritten. Night after night, go back and revise. Change the words you heard, the things you saw, the feelings you felt. Make them align with your wish fulfilled. And then rest knowing that what you have impressed upon the subconscious must bear fruit. Revision is redemption. Revision is forgiveness. Revision is freedom. So I tell you, do not let yesterday's failures dictate tomorrow's fortune. Take up the power of revision and write a new story. For when you revise faithfully, the echoes of the past fade, the chains fall away, and you step into a present and a future filled only with the wealth, the joy, the abundance you have chosen. Now, after all has been said, after the seed has been planted in imagination, after the decree has been given in the silence of night, after the command has been sealed, and the bridge of incidents has begun to rise, there remains the final charge. And it is the one most neglected. The one that separates those who see their desire from those who lose it in the soil of impatience. It is the call to faith until the harvest. For manifestation is certain, but it is not always immediate. And just as every seed has its appointed season, so too does every assumption require time to gestate, to take root in the depths, to push through the surface, to bear fruit in the world of fact. To abandon your assumption, because the fruit has not appeared tomorrow, is as foolish as a farmer cursing the earth, because the stalk has not broken through the soil in a single night. The seed is alive. The process is already at work. The harvest is inevitable, if only you will remain faithful until it comes. But this is where most falter. They lie down in the stillness. They speak the decree. They enter the state of the wish fulfilled. And for a moment they feel the joy of possession. Yet when they rise in the morning and see the same world, the same bills, the same figures in the bank, doubt seizes them. They say, "It has not worked. Nothing has changed. Perhaps I did it wrong. Perhaps this law is not true." And in that very moment they uproot the seed they planted. They cancel their decree. They return to the old state and the harvest withers unborn. But the one who knows the law does not waver. He understands that appearances are only echoes of past assumptions, shadows cast by yesterday's state, and that the new seed once planted will bring forth new fruit in its season. He does not dig up the seed with anxiety. He waters it with faith. He does not pace the field with impatience. He rests in the certainty that the crop is already his. This is what faith truly means. Faith is not a desperate hope that something might one day happen. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality now. It is the calm assurance that what has been decreed in imagination is already accomplished. Though the senses cannot yet detect it, it is refusing to be swayed by delay, refusing to be shaken by appearances, refusing to abandon the end you have assumed. Faith is standing upon the invisible rock of imagination and saying it is done even while the world outside still says it is not. Faith is loyalty to the unseen until the unseen becomes the sea. So I ask you, will you remain faithful? Will you walk in the end when the evidence mocks you? Will you continue to say, "I am wealthy, I am free, I am supplied in full," when the senses cry out otherwise? For if you will, then you will prove the law. And when the harvest comes, when the money flows, when the abundance surrounds you, when the 50 million you claimed in silence has taken shape, in fact, you will look back and see that it was your faith that carried you. Your faith that sealed the command, your faith that sustained the seed until its appointed hour. For the law is faithful, and the law never fails. The only question is whether you will remain loyal until the harvest. So I tell you, plant your seed, give your command, dwell in your state, and then rest. Let the world rearrange itself. Let the bridge unfold. Let the harvest ripen. Do not rush it. Do not dig it up. Do not curse the soil. Be patient. Be steadfast. For the day will come when you will stand amid the abundance you once saw only in imagination. And you will know that it was there all along, waiting for you to believe. Faith until the harvest is the final discipline. And once mastered, nothing will ever be impossible to you. And now we have reached the end of this revelation, though in truth there is no end. For the law is eternal, and the promise is unbroken. And what you have for tonight is not a philosophy to admire, nor a theory to debate, but the living key to creation itself. I have told you that wealth does not come by toil, nor by chance, nor by the generosity of others, but by the decree you give in imagination. I have shown you that consciousness is the only cause, that the subconscious is the treasury which accepts every feeling as fact, that every word joined to the name I am is a command of God, that the law of reversibility allows you to feel the effect and thus create the cause, that the subconscious obeys instantly, that the command is sealed most powerfully in the state akin to sleep, that to live in the end is the only way the end will manifest. That everyone you meet is only yourself pushed out. That you must guard your mental diet and revise your old story, and that above all you must remain faithful until the harvest. All of this is one truth spoken in many ways. Imagination creates reality, and what you dare to assume you will inevitably express. So tonight, do not let these words remain only as echoes in your mind. Take them into the silence and prove them. When you lie down to sleep, let your last act be to whisper the command into your soul. I am wealthy. I am already in possession of 50 million. I am free. I am supplied in full. Do not plead. Do not beg. But declare it as fact, and then feel it until it warms you. Until it fills your chest with relief, until it makes you smile in the dark, until it feels more real than the bed upon which you lie. Let that be the impression you carry across the threshold of sleep. For what the subconscious receives at that hour, it must reproduce in the world of day. And when you rise tomorrow, do not return to the old story. Walk as though the decree were already fulfilled, for indeed it is. Speak only in harmony with what you have planted. Guard your mental diet, revise every old failure, and remain loyal to the unseen reality until it crystallizes into fact. For the harvest is certain, and when it comes, you will stand amid riches that others will call a miracle, but which you will know are nothing but the inevitable echo of your own assumption. So I tell you, say it tonight. Whisper it into the silence. Seal it with feeling. Rest in it as finished. For the command is not far from you, nor hidden from you. It is upon your lips and in your heart. I am. That is the secret. That is the law. That is the power. Thank you.